This is KK6BEB. Excited to show you Ham.Live today. It's super easy to use. I think you'll find that it's very intuitive. That was the design goal. Why did I build Ham.Live? Spent the better part of the last year on it. I wanted us as a community to have, the next generation NetLogger, I guess, for the future. So something where, the chat is actually real time, where, you get an email notification and one of your favorite nets is starting. You get nice reports if you're a net control operator. It'll run on any platform. It'll run on your Android or iPhone, your tablet, your phone, uh, your Mac, your Linux machine, whatever. It's platform independent. It's actually optimized for mobile. I'll show you that. But that was the design goal. Kind of what's that next generation platform for us to move to? I don't think NetLogger has been updated since 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I felt like we needed something that was going to be around, ongoing and kind of that next generation thing. So with that, I'm going to jump right into a demo. So here we have Ham.Live. I'm logged in as KK6BEB. Creating an account is really simple. If you just go to attend net and then click on the lobby, if you're not logged in, it'll prompt you to log in with your Google account or with an email address. So I already logged in, but if I log out, you'll see how easy it is. I'll just click on the lobby, sign in with Google, and there you go. If I didn't have an account, it would ask me my name, location, and call sign. So that's how you create an account. Super easy. So let's start a net. And I would encourage you to do this with me if you want to. Just kind of go through it with me. So you can see I have one net running here, the lobby. I'm going to go ahead and start a net called, we'll call it BEB's testnet. And like I said, go ahead and do this with me if you'd like. And we'll give it a frequency. We'll say 7250 lower sideband. So 7250, mode is lower sideband. Now, if the mode you want isn't in this list, you can just say custom mode and then put your mode here in optional details. So it'll support any mode for the foreseeable future. But we want a pretty standard mode, so I'm going to say lower sideband. And then these additional notes, I'll talk about that later, but we can just delete that and submit. Okay, so now we have BEB's testnet. It's not running. I also have this main Ham.Live lobby, which is running. But let's go ahead and start our testnet. So start. Now, this countdown minutes, this is the time. It's sort of a grace period that you want to give people to attend your net. So I'll talk about how this would typically be done. Maybe 10 minutes before the top of the hour is net control. You might create your net and give this a 10-minute grace period. And what this means is the system's going to go ahead and send out emails to everyone who's interested in your net. And, it'll basically give them a 10-minute warning that the net is about to start. So for our use, we can go ahead and just say, maybe 1 minute. And there you go. We have BEB's testnet. You can see the countdown bar here. It's about to start in a minute. On the main dashboard, you can see BEB's testnet hasn't started yet. It's going to start at 8:34 a.m. local time. This is always local time. This is always basically your local time zone. By the way, as an end user, if I want to get an email every time this net starts, you can just click that star. Okay, and then every time net control starts that net, you'll get an email letting you know it's going to start. Let me jump back in here. The progress bar is going to move much faster because it's only really seconds away from starting. And I'm net control, KK6BEB. And I'm going to have on my tablet here another user that's going to, which I'm calling John Doe, which is going to join us for the net to demonstrate how easy it is as net control to manage this net. So here we go. Our net has started. And on my tablet, off the screen here, don't worry about this, John Doe is also going to be in attendance. So he's from, I believe I said Orlando, Florida. There you go. If I mouse over, it says Orlando, Florida. N4TST. Okay, so John's going to join us. I'm net control. In fact, John's going to say hello there in the chat room. All right, and we see that here again in real time. Okay, so I'm going to show you really quickly how easy it is to manage the net. So there's only two commands that you need to know as net control. I to check people in, O to check people out. It's really that simple. It's just I and O, I-O, okay? So let's say my net started, and I'm going to go ahead and start checking people in that I hear over the air, okay? So I push net control, and look at this. Okay, I can see my commands here, check in, check out. We're going to go over each of these, relay, logger, etc. But let's keep it super simple to begin with. So I to check people in. So I'm going to check in some friends of mine that I'm going to act like I've heard them over the air. So KK6QMS, Clifford. All right, I'm going to check him in. So there we go, Clifford Novi, KK6QMS. I'm going to check in, let's see, some people that I know don't have Ham.Live accounts. So K6MJU, I don't believe does. Yeah. So if someone doesn't have a Ham.Live account and we check them in, it still gets all their information from QRZ. In fact, we can mouse over them. But you can see there's a little generic picture of Marconi there, so you know they don't have a Ham.Live account. If they're online, there's a little green circle here. If they're not online, so Clifford has a Ham.Live account. You can see Morongo Valley, and that's his. I think that's his Google profile image because he has an account. So here we go. So our net's filling out. I'm going to check in some other folks. These are people who have been particularly helpful with me as far as their feedback and designing the system. So big thank you to these folks. So I'm going to check in Richard AJ4 UX. All right. Here we go. I'm going to check in. Sorry, my computer's trying to. I'm going to check in K0EB. Another Richard or Rich. These guys have been super helpful as far as their feedback of the system. So a lot of what you see here today are because of their feedback. So I'm going to check in I command again, AF6FB. And by the way, if you're doing this with me, you can check in whoever you want. Doesn't matter. If they don't have a Ham.Live account, it'll just grab their information from QRZ. So I'm just typing in I and then their call sign to check them in. It's that easy. Okay, so this is kind of the crew here. So we got Jim Gatwood, Michael Reggie, Richard. So, all right, so this is our test net. Now, let's say you're net control and you want to be able to kind of keep track of who are my short check-ins, who are people that are checking in and they're going to check out early. Well, it's really easy to keep track of those folks. So all you do is just click on their call sign and it highlights their call sign. And actually other attendees in the net can see that those stations are highlighted. Okay. So let's say these folks are short check-ins. So that's all you do. You just click their call sign and that gray bar across the top means they're short, right? They're short check-ins, check out. All right, now we have one spectator here who's just hanging out, John Doe from Orlando. And I don't know, let's say John's feeling ignored, so he wants to raise his hand and get our attention. So here we go. Okay. All right, John, we'll check you in too. Okay. So the I command. So we'll check in N4TST. Okay. All right, now everyone's checked in. And the system sorts everyone in order of their check-in. So since John Doe was the last person checked in, he's at the top of the list here. And then once you've, for these short check-ins, once you've handled that, you can just click on their call sign again and the highlight goes away. John raised his hand earlier. If we want to address that, you can just click on his hand and it lowers it. If you're net control, you can lower anyone's hand if they raise their hand. So, what else can I tell you? It's really that simple. So let's say, so I just told you you only need to know it's two commands, I to check people in, O to check people out. So let's just check people out. So O. So I'm going to start checking out some of these folks. I'm going to check out K0EB. I'm going to check out KK6QMS. So you can see as I check people out, there's a strike through across their name here. So they're checked out. All right. That's it. By the way, at this point, you know enough to use Ham.Live. The training's done. Anything else that I'm going to cover from this point on is more advanced. You can use it. You don't have to. But that's it. Now you know how to use Ham.Live. I would ask one last thing. When you're done with your test net here, I lied. There's actually 3 commands. I to check people in, O to check people out, and close to close your net. So type close, hit enter, and you'll get a really nice email report of your net with a spreadsheet attached with all the relevant information for your net. Now, let's go into the more advanced stuff. You don't have to use any of this stuff if you don't want to. But let's say we're listening to John. Let's say actually we're listening to Michael here on the air. And let's say I'm net control and I'm hearing him at like a 5 and 9. He sounds great, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just give Michael 5 and 9 because this is a 40 meter lower sideband net. All right, so he's got a 5 and 9. I'm going to give Mike Lee like a 5 and 7. I'm going to give, whoops, I didn't hit enter there. Enter. I'm going to give Richard here maybe a 5 and 8. Okay, so you can start giving people signal reports. Now, let's say Michael here, I gave him a 5 and 9, but let's say John Doe, who's also on the net, I'm running John Doe's account on a different computer so I can make this a little more interactive. John Doe is going to give Michael a 5 and 7. Okay, so if John Doe gives Michael a 5 and 7 in a sec, you'll see it refresh and how his average signal report is a 5 and 8. That's what you'd expect. Okay, so the goal of this system was to make it really interactive. Attendees can give each other signal reports. Again, you saw they can raise their hand. You can highlight stations if they have questions or if they're early check-ins or check-outs. That was the intent of all this. What else can I tell you as far as some of the more advanced stuff? So let's say we have some stations here that are going to help us relay, right? So let's say Jim is going to help us relay, WA9JG. So I'm going to make him a relay. So everything's super simple. It's just the R command. WA9JG is now a relay. So that lets everyone know. We can see here WA9JG. He's up here on top. Jim's a relay out in Texas. Okay. Now, let's say I want some help actually running the net. I want someone else that has the privilege to, the privileges in the system to help check people in and out, right? So I would make them a logger. That's the L command. So it's just L. And I'm going to make my John Doe here, N4 TST, a logger. Now, to be a logger, the call sign you put in here has to have a Ham.Live account. To be a relay, you don't have to have a Ham.Live account. But presumably, if you're a logger, you're going to be online in Ham.Live, checking people in and out along with net control. So we want to make you a logger if you're going to help. So now, what's really interesting is once we've done this, it says John here is a logger along with me. Okay. But what's cool is this net control panel that I can bring up and down. Regular attendees to the net don't see this net control panel, but now John does. So all of a sudden on John's screen, which I'm managing off on the side of my tablet, John gets this option to bring up a net control panel now. Except John's net control panel is a little more limited. He's just a logger. He can't close the net. He can't put people's hand down if they've raised their hand. There's a lot John can't do as a logger, but he can check people in and check people out. So John, our logger here, is going to help. So John's actually going to check out Michael Lee here. Mike Lee, K6MJU. So watch this. K6MJU is going to get checked out by our logger. And you can see John checked out Mike Lee. Okay? So that's how the logger feature works and how the relay feature works. That is pretty much it. The only other thing I would say is with these nets is if you want some help, if you want someone to be able to start a net on your behalf in the future, let's say you want to back up a net control operator, someone that can do that, you would add them as a co-owner. So you would click, if you go to Start Net here, I've got 2 running nets now, right? I can say Add Co-owner to a net, and you type in their email address for their Ham.Live account, and then all of a sudden they'll see the net showing up here. They'll see that they're also an owner of that net. Okay? What else can I tell you? Let's say, let me close this net and just give a few more examples. So I'm closing a net, type close. I hope you're doing this along with me. If you're not, I'd recommend, maybe going back on the video and just going through this with me. So if I search my email for Ham.Live, I get this beautiful net close report. Shows you net control was KK6BEB, right? My logger was N4TST. My relay was WN9JG. I get signal reports here, if they were given, and a spreadsheet with all the relevant information, right? If these people don't have Ham.Live accounts, this data actually just gets pulled in through QRZ. Now, I think with NetLogger, if you want to use QRZ data, you have to upload an API key or something. Each person has to upload their own API key. And with this system, you don't have to do any of that. It just works behind the scenes to pull in QRZ data. So you can see a nice spreadsheet, right, with all the relevant details of the running net. All right. That is pretty much it. What else can I tell you? If you were starting a net that is sort of a multi-mode net, let's say your net is going to, actually, let me do that. So let's say I'm a member of the Darn system out here. Big fan of the Darn system. So I'm going to make up a fake Darn net. So the Darn, call this the Darn chat net. And let's just say that runs on 446.240 and FM. And in these optional details, we can say, PL, let's say 92.1 or something. I'm just making this up. Okay. Now, this notes detail is where you would put additional information for how people would connect to a multi-system net. So you could actually put in, I'll show you how this looks. So you could say www.darn.org. I could say, it's a club website. I could say all-star node is 6789. DMR talk group or bridge or whatever, XYZ, right? So you get what that's for. So let's just start this net and you'll see how this looks. Darn chat net. I'll just say 0 countdown minutes. We're not going to send emails out to people letting them know it's starting. So now look at this. See these details here on the top? Darn.org, all-star, DMR talk group, blah. That's where that shows up. Okay. And if attendees, if that went away too quickly, they can just click on the net title again and get it again, right? But look up on top, FM PL 92.1. So you can see how the extra mode details show up here. So it's a little bit more kind of advanced. And I'll just type close to close the net. It's that simple, gang. There really isn't much else to it. If you click the little purple star next to a net, that means you want to get an email when it's starting. So I showed you that earlier. I'll show you some nets I'm following. So if I go to settings and I go to favorites, I can see some of the nets here I'm following. So you can see BEB's testnet was the one that we just created, and I'm following it. So if that net were to start again in the future, I would get an email about it. But let me just click the star next to it and unfollow it. All right. But you can see some nets I'm following here. Anytime these nets start, I'll get an email. So, all right. Hey, use the system, enjoy it. By all means, please create some test nets, familiarize yourself with it. And last but not least, if you know a net control operator, show them the system, because I think that's the best way for us to get, the community on board here, is to get net control stations to try this. Because then ultimately they're going to bring their users back with them, and we'll get a ton of people using it. And I'm convinced people are going to love the system. You can send me an email at support@ham.live. If you have any questions at all, any feedback, any features you want to see, let me know. Enjoy it. 73s.